Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome all of you once again. I've not had the pleasure of meeting each and everyone in this room, and I look forward to doing it possibly later on. Maruf has broadly listed out the program and what we are planning to do, etc. He's given a brief history as well. I'd like to delve a little bit into the if I can call it, the soul of the movement. The essence of this movement is A, it has got nothing to do with any government. It's completely neutral. B, it has no agenda other than for people to have a high level cerebral discourse in an environment which is neutral, in an environment where they can focus on the issues which are bedeviling all the countries right from Central Asia, West Asia to Japan and Australia. We are focused on Asia. And if Asia has to develop using the economic engines that the West is talking about, particularly energy, then we need to find out how we can strike this balance for a sustainable future. It's very fascinating if you study the story of oil, whether it's Daniel Yergin or you study all the experts who've spoken about oil. And we have amongst us countries which are very rich in oil and have a history of that. You find that there was a lot of concentration and focus on oil from Central Asia and Middle East to service the economies of Europe and America for a long, long time. But now you find a very strange phenomenon which has started taking shape and panning out in the last few years, that the energy producer and the energy consumer are sitting in Asia. And by Asia I mean including parts of Maghreb, I'm talking Central Asia, including Russia, China, all the way down to Australia. So it's interesting that there's a shift which has, in a sense, changed things. The legacy clients and the legacy players are no longer the focus. The focus has changed, and very, very few people realize that this change is happening much faster than they can imagine. However, we are still stuck with legacy issues. We still have, if I may use the phrase, let me think of a phrase which is other than interference, noise from the legacy players. Whether it's the Asian premium, where an Asian supplier sells to an Asian buyer, he pays an Asian premium. Why, I don't know. Or whether it's about who will be able to sell oil and who will not. Whether it's about pricing, whether it's about embargoes and sanctions. So there are a whole host of things happening which are artificial or are being thrust or are cramping, if I may say, or crimping rather, the development of this part of the world. I don't have my calculations correct, but I guess Asia consists of almost 4 billion people. And if my mathematics is right, we're running around 6.5. So I think the majority of the world is sitting here in terms of population. And if that's the case, then I think we need to relook at how we treat 2/3 of the planet rather than looking at just the 1/3, which has been happening for the last 100 odd years. The other issue which is rather interesting is, since it's only about discussion, it has no real agenda, it allows people to share their concerns. In fact, I remember in the first summit, we learned a lot about the Caucasus, about Central Asia, about issues that are bedeviling countries which have the resources but are landlocked, the pipeline wars, a whole bunch of issues connected to supply of gas and oil to Europe, the building of infrastructure for access to ports, and so on and so forth. We also learned a lot about the geopolitics involved in the context of Iran, Iraq, and then of course in the second summit we saw the South China Sea issue come up. And we now find a very fascinating thing. There are two new oil sheikhs on the block, and they don't look like the traditional oil sheikh. One is the United States of America, and one is Russia. And as we speak, the US is gearing up to set up LNG terminals to export gas to Asia. And as we speak, completion of pipelines from China, into China from Russia, via Mongolia into China, and a whole bunch of things are happening where the Asian giants that need energy, they need food, if I may say so, fuel, is being sorted out. So the new superpowers, if you like, or the new oil sheikhs are going to be these two new countries. But that is going to change the geopolitics tremendously. It's also going to change the paradigm of price of energy to access to energy. And that's a very, very new phenomenon. It's not about what price, it's a question of, do you have access? Do you have ability to have that access of oil result in transportation of the fuel to your economy? The other game changer which we are looking at in this year's summit is shale gas. While we are all clamoring, and I had a discussion with a lady just before coming in, for a higher price of gas, the US doesn't know what to do with its glut. And the shale gas prices, the geopolitics of it, the implications of lower pricing of gas has hit the United States in a positive way. It's destroyed the entire renewable industry for sure. But the positive thing is it's got energy which is cheap. And cheap energy means the economy can grow. Cheap interest, cheap capital, and cheap energy are the two key things. And it's great, good for America. Hopefully, at some point, they can wipe out their $5 trillion debt. $4 trillion, one is being minted now in terms of coins to avoid the financial cliff or the fiscal cliff. But the issue is, what is the impact of this cheap price of gas going to be? All of a sudden, countries which were miles and thousands of miles away are becoming our suppliers. What is going to be the impact on the economies in Asia? What's going to happen to the Asian gas producers? What will be the implications of the Asian gas and oil industry? Are we going to wait for the gas to come and then refine it? Are we going to have take-or-pay contracts? Are we going to have gas which is going to be a merchant gas? Or is it going to be something, a mix of a fixed price contract? Are we really going to have a cocktail of indices to actually fix the price of gas, which is linked to various other things? Or are we going to have a situation where gas is going to be offered like it was originally used to be offered to Japan on a cost plus return? And that's going to be another game changer. Because once you have less volatility of gas prices, you're going to be able to plan your power plants, you'll be able to plan your petroleum industries, you'll be able to link the 25-year contracts on a fixed price basis. And that's going to be a huge game changer. Because economies and industries which were not viable today may become viable tomorrow. There's another phenomenon happening, for example, in India, which I think will catch fire in Asia as well. And that is a phenomenon what we call ancillary services. There is no policy today for peaking power in India. There is no policy today that if there is a tremendous requirement of energy, there is a shortage of power, where do we get that power from? So all we do is we just switch off the system and have regulated power and blackouts. That's fine, that's the easy way out. But how long are you going to make these 4.6 billion people, plus rising, stick around in darkness? So these are the questions, ladies and gentlemen, which we are going to look at as we go forward. And we're looking at the fact that it's going to sort of coincide with the Indian market, where we are looking at the geopolitics and the energy security of India. Actually, if you look at this triangle here, it talks about the geopolitics of energy. It talks about energy security. It talks about security of energy infrastructure. Now, I've always said this, and I'm going to say it again. Large swaths of Asia are becoming prosperous. They're making money, but equally large number of people are feeling left out. And this will give a rise to social tension. This will give a rise to dissatisfaction. And this will give rise to a energy security, security of energy infrastructure problem. So therefore, you also need to find ways to secure the assets that you're creating to make sure that your economies run. And that is another piece of the debate that will go on in the Indian context. I'd also like to sort of say that we're going to end the note in the conference looking at the new technologies that are emerging in the world on alternate energy. Do we have, the time has come for perpetual motion machines? Or do we have the time for looking at supermagnets? Or has the time come for fission and fusion and superconductivity and maglevs and whatever else technologies we can have to save energy and to generate energy? We're going to have a session on that, and I'm really excited about that as well. Overall, I'd like to say, ladies and gentlemen, it's all about having fun while having a thought. And with that, I would say is basically the essence of Asia Energy Security Summit. We are actually fighting for your security. So we are doing it while having fun in Bangkok. To those of you who would like to join us and have fun, you're welcome to join us. Those of you who want to deprive yourself of this glorious opportunity, well, maybe next time.